just been going through the motions. You know, I'm a healthcare provider, so I talk about grief a lot. And now to be on the other side of this is, it's a lot.
Funeral services for the 18-year-old were held inside a Mississippi church today, his casket arriving ahead of his visitation earlier today. The services come 2 weeks after his body was found in the water near a popular barrier island following a 4th of July boat trip there with friends. And as the investigation into his death remains ongoing.
On July 4th, 2026, 18-year-old Nolan Wells traveled to Horn Island, Mississippi, to spend the holiday with a group of people. It was expected to be a normal day on the water, but before the trip was over, Nolan disappeared. His disappearance prompted an immediate search involving law enforcement, emergency responders, and other agencies. What began as a missing person search soon became a death investigation. 2 days later, Nolan's body was found near Horn Island. While the recovery ended the search, it did not explain what had happened. Investigators began gathering witness statements, reviewing evidence, and waiting for forensic examinations that could help determine how the 18-year-old died. As days passed, many of the key questions remained unanswered. Nolan's family requested an independent autopsy, alongside the official examination being conducted by the state.
The only question that we have is what happened to our son. That is the only question.
Nolan Wells' parents remain in the dark despite an independent preliminary autopsy report performed in Washington, D.C. by Dr. Roger Mitchell, read aloud by civil rights attorney Ben Crump during a press conference Wednesday morning.
Cause of death undetermined, pending investigation.
According to the preliminary report, Dr. Mitchell could not examine Nolan's entire body, specifically the neck area. The report reveals part of the neck were not received with the body.
When the independent findings were released, they did not provide a definitive explanation. The forensic pathologist listed both the cause and manner of death as undetermined pending investigation. Subscribe to Matrix Crime and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our new case.
The parents of a Mississippi teenager are demanding answers following his death. Nolan Wells took a 4th of July boat trip to a barrier island off the coast with his friends, but he never made it home.
We just want to know what happened and why our baby didn't come home.
Nolan Wells was a 2025 graduate of Ocean Springs High School, a coastal town just east of Biloxi. He grew up close to his family, the son of Christine and Elmore Wonsley. From an early age, he was drawn to sports, and that pull toward athletics would come to define much of his young life. Those who knew him describe a kid who spent his time outdoors, active, and surrounded by people he loved. By high school, Nolan had become a multi-sport athlete, the kind of teenager a small town turns out to watch under the Friday night lights. He played wide receiver, and on the field, people noticed him. His speed, his athleticism, his ability to make a play when it mattered. Off the field, the description was even more consistent. People who spent time with him in the hallways, the weight room, and under the Mississippi sun say he had a particular way of carrying himself. Nolan was so much more than an outstanding football player. He carried himself with humility. He treated people with respect. He worked hard. He led by example. His character, the coach said, spoke louder than his accomplishments. His mother has described him in similarly warm terms. A bright light, a kind soul, someone with an infectious smile and energy, someone who never met a stranger.
This loss, this grief, this pain, it's different. It's insurmountable. And then it's like you get these flood of emotions all at different times, and grief is so multi-layered. 1 second I might be okay and I can talk about things and I can listen to his stories, and then the next minute I am falling apart and I feel like I can't breathe and I feel like there is an elephant just sitting on my chest. But I know this is the process. I have a wonderful support system. I have my faith in God, which I've been leaning heavy into. But I just wanted to let you guys know that I see you. I love you. I'm thankful for all of you. And I'm so sorry that I hadn't been able to reply. I don't know exactly when again I'll post. For some reason, it does help. And I know if Nolan was here, he'd be like, Mom, just keep talking to the people, keep telling my story, keep telling your story. So that is going to be my plan. Again, thank you all so much. I love you, and I will talk to you later.
On July 4th, Nolan set out with a group of friends to celebrate Independence Day on Horn Island, a barrier island off Mississippi's Gulf Coast. Horn Island is remote, a stretch of protected, largely undeveloped land accessible only by boat, with no permanent population, no emergency services stationed on the island itself, and no quick way to reach the mainland if something goes wrong. It's a popular spot for boaters and holiday gatherings, but its isolation means that anyone who runs into trouble there is, for a period of time, on their own. The group traveled to the island by boat for the holiday. At some point during the outing, Nolan's friends left the island, and it appears Nolan stayed behind. Hours later, his family reported him missing. The exact sequence of what happened on Horn Island that day, and in the hours before anyone realized Nolan was gone, remains one of the central unresolved threads of this case.
The friends that Nolan traveled to Horn Island with, they say that he stayed behind voluntarily. Why would he stay behind?
That we cannot answer. I can't fathom why he would.
I don't know why he would. We always taught him to, if you go with a group, you stay with a group. Mm-hmm. Even when he was in college, he would say, Dad, well, we're gonna ride down to a party or something in another city. Now, so I was telling him, look, if you go with 5, you come back with 5. Do not separate from your group. Because I always said safety is in numbers. Mm-hmm. And he always said, yes, sir. So he knew to stay with his group. So why would he split from his group? I don't know.
So that would have been unusual for him to split from the group. Yeah. And you said he would always check in with you. Did he check in with you that day?
So that day, no, I don't. But of course, too, they were on the boat. And usually when he is out there, which it's not uncommon, he's, I think, since last year, he's been going there occasionally with his friends. And so it would always just be like, hey, Mom, I'm back, type of thing. But this time there was no call or a text from him. It was from his friend.
And then, too, really didn't worry a lot about it because, it was his last weekend to have fun. Yeah. Because that Monday he had to report to school. We was preparing to take him back for camp to prepare for the season. So, we're gonna see. He wanted to have his last little hurrah before he locked down and get ready for the season. Because, like I said, the entire summer he's training. He got more serious. He started to understand what I was trying to tell him about. Football not just being fun, but as you get farther in it, it becomes a business. If you want to excel, you have to understand. You have to understand both at the same time.
And we know, Ben, that you said that you're going to do an independent investigation.
Yes.
And you say you have Nolan's cell phone and messages were deleted. How could you tell messages were deleted?
Well, his parents got the phone back, and that's something that's important, Michael, because they tracked this phone on Life 360.
So Life 360, but when I received the phone call from Warren, I immediately called my friend Tashima and I said, hey, have you guys seen Nolan? Because her two sons, Jalen and Javon, like they grew up together. They played City League sports together. When they got into school, they played sports together. And so she was like, hey, like, okay, the boys were pulling up the location from Snapchat. So the Snapchat location looks completely different than the Life 360 location. So when I pulled up Life 360, it was different. It was showing everywhere the phone had been. Like it had, I was like, well, it's showing that he's back on land. Like I'm not, he's like, but no, he didn't come back with us.
Well, how were you able to get the phone?
So we tracked it, and my friend Tashima went and picked it up.
It wasn't like they said we got his phone, they tracked it. And that highlights all these contradictions, Michael. The fact that they said Nolan was talking to a young woman and she said that he said, I'm going back to get on the boat with the boys. The boys said that he said he was going to stay with her. And so that's an obvious contradiction. And then this video of this, you can hear an argument going where Nolan is saying, give me my freaking phone. What are you freaking doing? And so then his phone ends up missing. I don't know any teenagers, Michael Strahan, who says, if you believe their story, I'm going to stay behind and I'm going to leave my phone. I mean, no young person leaves their cell phone. And so then there's so many things their parents were telling us about, even why didn't his body wash up with the tide on Sunday? Why would it come on Monday? It's not adding up. And that is the problem when you think about the history of Mississippi.
Yeah, so there are so many questions that need to be answered. And is there anything you'd like people to know about Nolan? What would you like them to know about your son?
No,
It's okay.
Nolan, take your time. Nolan was very loving. He was liked by all. It was not a friend that he couldn't make.
No, we'll be right back with more for the parents of Nolan Wells and attorney Ben Crump. We're back now on GMA with the parents of Nolan Wells, Christina and Elmore Wansley. And I want you to please continue to tell us what you want the world to know about your son.
So Nolan was just like this bright light, right? Walk into a room, his smile, his energy was just so infectious. Like it's almost like he drew you into him. And he was just one of those people, like he always wanted everyone to be included. He didn't want anyone to feel left out. I remember one of his teachers emailing us, I can't remember what grade he was in, but basically it was math class. They had a special needs student and she asked a question and Nolan got everyone to put their hands down because he wanted that student to answer. And so student answers the question and she was like, Christine, the classroom, Nolan went crazy and everyone else started going crazy, just celebrating that child, making them feel included. And that was the person he was. Like he loved everyone. And I always told Nolan, like, you know, you have to be careful when you have such a big heart like that. I love that God blessed you with that, but you have to be careful with that because, you know, that it's not always returned, that type of love, but he was just genuinely a good person. Like I always say, all the best parts of me are with him.
And Dad, anything else you want to add?
It's just, he's gonna be really missed. I know a lot of his teammates, they all look to him as a leader. He's more like a silent leader. Not real big on words, more action, which is kind of like I was. I really wasn't real big on talking. I really wanted to show you and you follow me, and people follow him. And it's gravitated. He put in the work, he worked hard, and he knew he was focused on what he wanted. And he wanted to make life better for, you know, his family. He wanted to have his own family. He used to say, Dad, I want to do this, I want to do this, I want to build this. I said, well, son, you got to take it one step at a time. Slow down, let's go, let's walk this thing out. You know, let's train, let's sign our deals, let's make these teams, make these camps, put the work in, and everything else will work out. even his baby brother, their bond got even stronger because now I have a big brother that he's finna do something. So now I want to outdo that. So his focus and his confidence has got even better. So I was looking forward to both of them having outstanding years.
Seasons,
He seemed like he inspired in the home and he inspired outside of the home. And Attorney Crump, where do we go from here? What's next?
Well, the deleted messages that Christina was going to briefly touch on, we want to get the phone and figure that out.
Backtrack on that. When we finally got his phone, me and my sister went through the phone. We went in his Snapchat. He had 2 accounts, absolutely nothing. It wasn't even 24 hours, which is how long videos and pictures stay in Snapchat. And I was just like, that can't be. Like, I've seen Nolan whenever he snaps, like when he goes and he's having fun, like he does videos. Like, there was absolutely nothing, no saved videos. And even my sister was like, yeah, that's suspicious,
Michael,
you know.
We having an independent autopsy done at the behest of his family. Colin Kaepernick helped pay for the independent autopsy. We flew his body up from Mississippi to D.C. because they wanted an autopsy done by a person with no interaction with the Mississippi law enforcement, because there's an issue of trust here that is really important. And the fact that they keep trying to say, well, suggesting it was a drowning, but nobody out there reported him drowning. It's not adding up, Michael Strahan. It is not adding up.
And honestly, we are doing this because at the end of the day, I would hope any parent would fight for their kids to find out if anything happened, what did happen. So we just want honesty and transparency. We want a thorough investigation. We want that same respect that would be given to anybody else, and that's it. We just want answers.